Welcome to SVGTV's news for Monday, August the 17th, 2020. I am Bhavin Olver with the details. The SVG Met Services is encouraging persons to exercise caution as the country is presently experiencing a combination of meteorological phenomenon causing tremendous rainfall nationwide. At 2 p.m., SVG experienced around 23.3 millimeters of rain, almost an inch of rainfall, with that number expected to rise into this evening, with up to 3 inches predicted for tomorrow. Forecaster at the Met Office, Desiree Neverson-Jack, highlighted what is taking place from a meteorological standpoint.
So there's more than one phenomenon taking place right now, and that is why we are experiencing so much showers as we are. Firstly, we have a strong tropical wave. On NHC last update, NHC noted a 20% chance of a cyclone formation. But by the time any development takes place, this wave will be to the west of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. So what is going to happen tonight? It is mostly lingering moisture from this tropical wave. Secondly, we are experiencing some moisture from the intertropical convergence zone. You're probably familiar with it as the ITCZ. Later tonight, as the night progresses, that will be affecting us more. What happens is around this time during the wet season, it happens to nudge northward and produce a lot of moisture that results in showers over St. Vincent and the Eastern Caribbean. Thirdly, what is happening is that at upper levels, there's an upper level trough positioned, and that is creating a favorable environment for enhancement. So we have these three phenomena going on right now, and that is why we are experiencing so much showers across St. Vincent.
Neverson-Jack said given the present conditions, a weather and marine advisory has been issued with a flash flood advisory expected to be issued for tomorrow.
There's a weather advisory where we are advising all residents and motorists in flood-prone areas and areas prone to landslides on their rivers and streams to exercise caution. We also have a marine advisory out for above normal swells and gusty winds. Tonight into tomorrow, those two advisories will remain in effect. As of 6 p.m., there will be a flood watch. Right? A flash flood watch will be in effect from 6 p.m. today until 12 o'clock noon tomorrow. Tomorrow, Tuesday, we are looking at approximately 75 millimeters of rainfall. That is approximately 3 inches. And of course, you know, in the mountainous areas, there's a likelihood of higher amounts.
Any idea how much it would have fallen today?
20.3 millimeters. That is almost close to an inch. An inch is around 25.25 millimeters.
All right.
So it's not too far at all. And this is just at the Argyle airport. So you could imagine what is going on in the interior of the country. As of 2 o'clock this afternoon, our next rainfall measurement will be at 6 o'clock.
The forecaster said high winds are also a concern.
Right, winds, higher gusts are expected near showers. We are going in for 12 to 25 miles per hour. That is roughly 20 to 40 kilometers per hour, with higher gusts near showers. So I'm just advising persons to be careful if you have any loose objects in the porch or around to exercise caution.
Residents and motorists living or traversing areas prone to flooding and landslides are asked to be vigilant. Consumers of goods and services in SVG have been given stronger legal protection under the new consumer protection legislation. The bill was passed in Parliament on Friday. Minister responsible for consumer protection, Sir Louis Straker, who tabled the bill, said consumers must become au fait with their rights and responsibilities, as well as business operators and service providers. Sir Louis outlined some of the consumer rights which will be strengthened under the new legislation, such as the expectation of certain noted standards.
Clause 51 states that consumers have a limited right to rescind or cancel certain types of agreements depending on the circumstances of the rescission or cancellation. The clause also sets out the responsibilities of the supplier where an agreement is rescinded or cancelled. And clause 52 states that a consumer has a right to receive any documents required under the Act in the English language. Clause 53 states that where a consumer receives documents that are required under the Act to be delivered to the consumer, the document must be either in a prescribed form or in plain language if there is no prescribed form.
The legislation also gives consumers the right to take legal action against service providers, with mediation suggested as the first option to settle matters.
Tribunal for which a supplier may be liable on summary conviction if the supplier is a body corporate and it is proved that the supplier failed to obey the tribunal's order. Every director and officer of the supplier is liable on conviction to a fine or imprisonment or both. Clause 39 empowers the High Court to hear an appeal against a decision of the tribunal. Clause 40 provides for an appeal. Clause 40 provides that an appeal does not automatically stay or suspend the tribunal's order, but a judge may stay or suspend the operation of a tribunal's order pending the appeal.
Also, under the legislation, information on products from suppliers will have to be provided before an agreement is settled.
In accordance with a provision in the Act, information is required to be disclosed or a document to be prepared or published on behalf of the supplier, and the information or document, when read in context, may reasonably be construed as having more than one meaning or is ambiguous. The clause stipulates that the tribunal must use the meaning that best promotes the spirit and purpose of the Act and improve the realization of consumer rights.
Other members on the government side said that it will be a bill long in waiting, which will benefit all consumers.
Function, its intent, is to stop unfair, deceptive, fraudulent practices in the marketplace, to protect buyers of goods and services, and indeed to protect the public in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, the public consumers.
What this piece of legislation will do, what this bill is seeking to do, is to ensure that when we go out and we have our hard-earned monies, we work hard to put together our pennies, that when we go and we purchase items, that if there is a supplier, if there is a producer who isn't of the mind and of the ilk that is taken into consideration that I'm producing a good or a service that has a particular value, that there is a recourse to the consumer.
The law before us, the bill, Mr. Speaker, before us, I think is quite well organized. And, you know, the Prime Minister would from time to time make the point that structure follows function. And we have to have appropriate structure in place if we want a certain function to be performed. This is reflected in the way this bill is presented to this Honorable House.
The Consumer Protection Bill has 150 clauses, and while opposition MPs sought clarification on some of these clauses, they supported the bill.
Clarification on the B. B is a member who has knowledge and experience in consumer protection to be nominated by a recognized consumer organization. And when we go to the interpretation section, that defines what is a recognized consumer protection organization, and it refers you to clause 6. My question for the minister is whether or not we do have organizations or an organization that qualifies on the 6, first of all. And if we don't, how then can we comprise the tribunal that is required under the schedule? Because that is an important part. And the second clarification point is, if there are more than one such recognized consumer organization, how would the member be appointed? Just for clarification.
Mr. Speaker, in all seriousness, the banter part, and I address respectfully the Honourable Member for Central Leeward. I comment on this bill, give my reflections with some trepidation. And the trepidation is informed by a pattern that is unfortunate and that has emerged. We are still a parliamentary democracy, a constitutional democracy, and that in and of itself affords us the right to agree.
Motorists in SVG as of today, Monday, August the 17th, 2020, are paying a bit more at the pump for gasoline with a slight decrease for diesel. In news release said Cabinet granted the approval for changes to the maximum price of gasoline, diesel and low-sulfur diesel in exercise of the powers conferred by the Price and Distribution of Goods Act, Cap 161. The wholesale and retail price for gasoline has moved up by 49 cents. A gallon of gasoline at the wholesale price moved from $8.86 to $9.35, while the retail price moved from $9.62 to $10.11. The wholesale and retail price for diesel has decreased by 50 cents. Diesel wholesale price per gallon is now $7.40 from $7.90, while the retail price has moved from $8.56 to $8.06. Low sulfur diesel wholesale and retail price has fallen by 39 cents. The wholesale price per gallon has moved from $7.89 to $7.50, while the retail price has moved from $8.55 per gallon to $8.16. Preparations are said to be well underway for schools across SVG to reopen to all students on August 31st, 2020. And Deputy Chief Education Officer Dixon Finley said strict protocols and measures will be in place to protect the nation's children. Speaking on SVG-TV's Viewpoint program last evening on the preparation for the reopening of schools amidst the COVID-19 pandemic, Finley said that the ministry has been preparing for the reopening of schools since March and will be implementing some new measures which will put more emphasis on hand hygiene, daily temperature checks, and encouraging students to wear masks in school, on the streets, and in public transportation.
We also it is strongly also recommended that we all persons wear masks on public transport, including students. So we're not encouraging just the students, but all persons to wear masks. Moreover, students will be also advised to wear appropriate face covering while in public places during school hours. So the ministry is not taking anything for granted. We are going to ensure that everything is in place for the 31st of August. And Praxa is going out to school to ensure that the hand washing stations are in place, our toilets are ready, and all of the necessary things are in place for the opening of school. We can't take things for granted.
Dean of the Technical Division of the SVG Community College, Osborne Bowens, said that the college has put a lot of protocols in place for its reopening on September 7th with Year 2 students. He said the college, however, plans to conduct most of its classes online.
Going forward, I think that this year, this academic year, when we do get started on the 7th, we get started on the 7th of September with our Year 2 students. What we are hoping is that we go more in the online environment for our theory classes, because our numbers are large, and we don't want to have that situation where we have the huge crowds where the social distancing cannot be effective. So we want to do a lot of our classes online where the theory can support that. In the case of practicals, again, we will stagger the practicals in a way that our students can come in smaller groups to be part of where practicals are supposed to happen. We have all of the other usual protocols in place in relation to hand washing, temperature checks. I think that we are making plans as the Division of Nursing is part of the St. Vincent and Grenadines Community College. We'll have nurses on the various campuses.
Bowens, however, cautioned that the reopening of schools should be properly managed, noting that if not, it can erase some of the strides made in the education system over the last 25 years.
At the opening of school this 31st of August, a set of new students would be going into the Form 1s, and we know that parents usually want to be part of that process on the very first day, to go and be part of the interaction within the schools. And I mean, this is something as well that needs to be managed. But all in all, the system needs to be well managed, because let me also say that if this system is not properly managed, one of the fears that I have is the extent to which it would probably erase some of the gains that we have made in our education system in the last 25 years.
Trees are an important part of every community, contributing to their environment by providing oxygen, improving air quality, conserving water, preserving soil, and supporting wildlife. The role of forests and trees play in improving agricultural productivity has long been recognized, but there is not too well known in farming method called intercropping, which trees are of key importance. Our news team recently visited the Richmond Vale Academy to examine this farming practice used by the institution as part of its thrust to promote sustainable farming. Intercropping can be described as a practice which involves the growing of two or more crops in close proximity with each crop, providing a benefit to each other. Our trip to the Richmond Vale Academy revealed a rich variety of tree crops such as bananas, guavas, green peas, and lucina planted near root crop such as the sweet potato. Director of the Richmond Vale Academy, Stina Herberg, said trees are of critical importance for food and environmental security, and if used as part of an intercropping system, can provide tremendous benefits. One of these trees is the lucina, which Herberg says can help to replace chemical-based fertilizers for sweet potatoes.
This tree is also a nitrogen fixer. It means that this tree can take nitrogen out of the air and make it available in its roots for the other plants to take up. So we have some sweet potato here, and when you combine trees with other products, it's really smart, because now when it's rainy season, then you can see we cut back the trees so we allow more sun to come through. And when it's a dry season, we allow the trees to get really bushy so that we have less sun come through, and then we protect the soil and keep the moisture. For example, this year we experienced a really tough drought. It was very hard for our farmers. But I have to say that in several fields I had exactly the amount of grass I needed for the animals because of the trees.
Organic farmer Romel Springs said intercropping methods help to promote a rich biodiversity for plants, birds, and insects, which helps to promote good crop development, as well as diversification.
Well, intercropping is the best, rather than to plant one crop of this, one crop of that. Because if you look at the food system that is going on now, when the traffickers came to buy, they only can get one crop of this, one crop, then they go to another farmer and they get one crop of edibles, go to another farmer, one crop of yam. So if they can come by me, they can get everything they want, because the intercropping, it is good. So if you plant pumpkin with the banana, it will feed back the banana, and the banana feed the pumpkin. So there is no need to clear all the grass from the root of the banana to destroy the soil. So keeping grass on the ground, it helps stop the soil from washing away. Create more potassium. So in order now we plant the okras, so the okra give to the potato and the potato give to the okras, and it create a beautiful environment. So it have this environment for the butterflies, the bees, the birds, the caterpillars, the worms. because without those, nature won't work.
Among the trees found at the Academy site is the Ackee tree. They were provided by the Ministry of Agriculture for distribution. The Academy director said this plant can be useful in SVG Trust to ensure food security.
Well, first I'd like to say that I think it's a good initiative to go for diversification. And with this example, I think it's quite new for many in St. Vincent to get a hold of an Ackee tree. We have some for distribution right here, and we are planting also 300 trees here at the Academy. What I found was I was very happily surprised to learn about the healthy fats and the healthy proteins in Ackee trees. So therefore, we are going to plant and eat a lot of Ackees moving into the future. We already start to buy now because some people around St. Vincent already have the trees. But for now, as the campaign is out, it will be easier for many people to get on board and plant also Ackee trees. So good fat that you can find in coconut oil, in avocados, and in Ackee is very important for you, for your health and for your well-being. And watch out for the imported vegetable fat. They are not good for you.
For SVG-TV's Evening News, I am Barbin Alver. The police are investigating the circumstances surrounding the death of Michael Ray Caesar, a 57-year-old landscaper of New Montrose, Monkey Hill. The deceased body was discovered at about 6 a.m. on Saturday, August the 15th, away from his home with what appears to be an injury to the back of his head. A post-mortem examination is expected to be conducted to ascertain the cause of death. The police are seeking the public's assistance in this matter. Persons with information that can aid in the arrest and prosecution of the suspect or suspects are asked to contact the Assistant Commissioner of Police in charge of crime or any police station. Calls this way would be treated confidentially. The police are also investigating the circumstances surrounding a motor vehicular collision on Saturday morning which claimed the life of 47-year-old Lamont Dixon of Murray Village. A police report says that the accident took place at around 2:15 a.m. on Saturday and involved motor vehicle R9866 owned by colleague Haywood of Kingstown, which was at the time driven by Dixon, and motor vehicle R4359 owned by Kenmore Robertson of Riley and driven by Azilio Jack of the same address. Both vehicles collided while traveling in the opposite direction within the vicinity of the entrance to the Public Works Department at Anna's Vale. Both vehicles were extensively damaged. The occupants of motor vehicles R4359 and R9866 sustained injuries about their bodies, while the driver of R9866, Lamont Dixon, lost his life. The police are seeking the assistance of the public for information that can help with further investigations. Meanwhile, sister of the deceased, Simone Murray, told SVG-TV News that her brother lived next door to her and has had one child. She said that she has learned of his death while in Beckway. Murray said her family is dealing with a lot at this time and she was not prepared for her brother's death.
I picked up the phone and he said, what are you doing now? I said, well, I just woke up. He said, I have bad news. The brother has been in an accident. And I said, is he dead? And he said, yes. I couldn't believe. I really couldn't believe. I mean, all that we were going through, to have that added, it was just, I just had to scream out to God and ask why. You know, brother lived right next door to me. He would always be going and coming. He's gonna have to do that for me. He has one son who I will have to focus on now because my brother is gone.
The heartbroken woman said that she shared a wonderful bond with her brother, who is older than her, noting that he has been comforting during this difficult period in her life.
In a bar next to the Methodist Church in Annisville. I spoke to his partner this morning, and he said that Monty would have, well, that's what I call it, Monty. He would have met him up at Side Hill to get the keys to go back to the bar to pick up something. And by the time he got home, you know, people were saying White or dead, which is the other name they call him. I could trade anything in the world to get back my brother, because he was the only sibling I grew up with. Every sibling, all siblings have the rivalry about quarrels, but it's my brother. I loved him.
And a 9-year-old student is fighting for her life in the intensive care unit at the Milton K2 Memorial Hospital, days after being struck by a Toyota car in the Camden Park area. The police say, according to investigations on Thursday, August the 13th, motor vehicle P7818, a blue Toyota car owned and driven by Romano Richards of Camden Park, struck the 9-year-old pedestrian on the Camden Park public road in the vicinity of the Aaron Smith and Family Bakery, causing her to sustain serious injuries to her chest and head. The student is currently a patient at the intensive care unit at the Milton K2 Memorial Hospital. The SVG police force is appealing to all motorists and pedestrians using the public roads to exercise caution.